Hello, it's Gabrielle here from Boingboing and the Centre of Resilience for Social Justice at the University of Brighton. I'm here on behalf of the Hastings Opportunity Area to talk to you about staff wellbeing. This clip is one of a series about staff wellbeing in which we've used the resilience framework to help us group some of the evidence around resilience to help us get a better handle on what we could do. In it, I'll be looking at what the evidence says about promoting staff wellbeing through what the resilience framework refers to as core self. It's always worth remembering that at Boingboing we don't consider it's up to an individual to take complete responsibility for their own sense of well-being. And well-being really comes from a culture that is created within a school by everybody within it. So you can use the framework to consider how you can do things for yourself, how you can do things for your colleagues, but also how the school as a whole can create structures that allow you to have a sense of well-being. The core self component draws on evidence about the power of thinking hopefully, and also about how it can be really useful to your own resilience to look at things from other people's points of view and consider their feelings, as well as having a strong sense of identity. So having time or making time to think about what you want, what you're good at, who you are within an organisation, and where you want to take that, and things that you can do to make things better for yourself by noticing what it is that you want. As with much of the evidence on the resilience framework, the core self resilient moves seem self-evident. It's sort of obvious that if you maintain a sense of hope when things are getting really tough, it's going to help you to get out of bed in the morning and keep going. And we found this, I think, during COVID, when since the vaccines have been announced, people feel a bit cheerier. But things don't necessarily happen unless you think about it. So taking time to plan, taking time to think consciously. Are we talking enough about hope? Are we spending too much time talking about all the things that are going wrong and how difficult it is? And trying to turn that around. If you've got difficult news to announce, also looking for the hope, then these are the type of things which are going to lift the whole school. The more people that speak in hopeful ways in a school, it just becomes part of the general discourse, and then everybody does it. Core self is a lot about who you think you are and your role in the school. And for some people, this can be very straightforward, but for other people, they may feel that their roles in the school are not really recognised, or they may be quietly getting on thinking that actually nobody appreciates what they're doing because people just forget to mention how appreciative they are. So thinking about it, do you tell the lunch staff how much you appreciate it when they're really cheery and just getting on with things? Do you thank your cleaner? Do you ask your TAs for advice? Do you ever go to your head and say, I really appreciate what you did just then, that really helped me out? Do you hear something about a pupil talking about someone else's lesson and remember to tell them that somebody said their lesson was great? So what about who's telling you that you're appreciated? Well, this is the thing you can be in control of. You can be in control of talking about how you appreciate other people, and already the evidence says that is going to make you feel better about yourself, but also you're just contributed to that general environment. And the schools I've worked in where people remember to do those things, it's just the whole culture of the school is one of happiness and well-being, because people are being told these things the whole time, because it's being modelled and everybody's doing it. Having a strong sense of identity, purpose and motivation can also mitigate against some of the challenges inherent in the job. When we're talking about purpose and motivation, there are lots of studies around burnout which indicate that having a sense of loss of purpose or loss of meaning burnout with your job can be very, very negative and very sapping. So if you feel like the reason why you came in to work in schools and work with young people doesn't square with what you're having to do, then that can rapidly demotivate you. There are also studies around work culture which look at purpose and motivation. And a lot of people know now that having a sense of purpose is important, but purpose, of course, can't be given to people. Sometimes you can be told what your purpose is, but actually it really only comes from within. But in a school or college culture, everyone's so busy that they don't necessarily have time to think about what are we trying to do again. And perhaps the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic has given us a chance to reevaluate what schools are for and what they're here to be doing. And this might be a good opportunity to have some reflection around that and think about, what are you trying to do? What is it possible to do? And if it really doesn't square, if you don't feel like you can do that, or you don't feel like you want to do that, then it's not advisable to stay in the school, because it's such a hard job that you really need to want to do it. Another really important aspect of the core self is a sense of autonomy and agency. It used to be that if you worked in a school, that professionals were trusted and you broadly knew what you needed to do and you were trusted to get on with things. Obviously that has changed in the past few decades, and teaching staff have less and less sense of autonomy, and other people within the school may not feel they have a sense of agency. Everything's so fast and you're just told what to do and everyone's being reactive the whole time. But actually that sense of creativity and motivation and agency is absolutely crucial, both for people's sense of well-being within the job, but also for what the outcomes are and how they respond to pupils and the type of lessons they deliver. So rolling things back in a school and trying to think, how much can we give people a little bit more autonomy? Can we trust them? Can we ask them? Can we give them responsibility for certain things, so that people really feel like they are in control of what they're doing and they can come up with the ideas to do things? It's so simple, and yet it's so important, and it's quite difficult to do. So what does core self look like in practical terms? Well, it depends what school you're in. Sometimes it looks like a Christmas celebration in which all the staff were invited, and there was a school I worked in where it was paid for by the governors, and therefore everybody was able to go. It looks like genuine participation, so actually asking people, every member of the staff, about their opinions when decisions are being made, and really those staff feeling like their opinions matter and they are actually contributing to policy. It might look like celebrations of different members of staff. It might look like just conversations where you see people remembering to say positive things to each other. But whatever it is in your school, it's really about taking that time to think about, does everybody have a sense of purpose? Does everybody feel recognised in this school? Do people have time to think about what we're here for and what we're trying to do? And are we able to focus on the positives? Are we able to find the hope despite the fact that things can get really tough? One other aspect of the evidence is about understanding other people's feelings. And as adults, we tend to think that we can do this, but actually some of the time we don't have the information available. So some schools would get pupils to talk to staff if they have some sort of lived experience of adversity, which the staff really don't know what it feels like, or getting parents to talk to staff about, for instance, what it's like trying to get your child to school when your child is really far too anxious to get to school. So thinking about how you can help members of staff to really understand what it's like to be a pupil or parent in difficult situations is also a really useful way of boosting well-being in the school. Don't forget also that part of the core self component is the fact that there are tried and tested methods out there and you don't need to reinvent the wheel the whole time. And for part of that, you may consider the Education Support site, which is a mental health charity for teaching staff with a free phone number with trained professionals. So having that information, that phone number up there for people to call when things are really getting on top of them and to destigmatise it may be one little thing which is going to make a massive difference to some members of staff. So thanks very much for watching this clip. Don't forget that there are several other clips all looking at the different components of the resilience framework and how you could use these to promote staff wellbeing across the school. See you next time. You can find out more, including information on Boingboing's academic resilience approach, from our website, boingboing.org.uk, where we have free to download resources and also a guide to children and young people's mental health in schools with a COVID edition.